Well, to start off with, I am so passionate about learning in general, as far as the learning space for kids, for adults, because I think it's important that we recognize learning doesn't happen the same way for everybody. So, in my past life, for 6 years, I was a middle school teacher. And in those 6 years, I really recognized all these unique learning styles, all these unique ways to reach kids, and that really ignited a passion in me to make it meaningful for them. When you are working with kids every day, you see how they think and or the lack thereof, right? If they're so used to being told an answer to everything, they kind of like just shut down that curiosity. They shut down that excitement for learning. And so that kind of is what really got me started on wanting to create learning experiences that made them curious, made them want to ask questions. So I have my master's in the art of teaching. I have an education specialist in K 12 administration. I have worked in the corporate learning space with adults. And then, like I said, in a middle school classroom for 6 years. So I have dealt with a lot of different learners, a lot of different styles. And I think that if I had to say what my biggest passion was, it was just reaching all of them, finding the right way to reach all of them.
I think that's amazing, Kenzie, and I think that's why you and I connect so well as business partners. Because I love having a lot of years of experience watching you work with the youth and have a lot of fun with them and get to even work side by side with you so many times when we like through youth camps and things of that nature and just get to learn from you on that side. And where I think it really balances out is my passion. I love to teach, and my name's Chris, and you've gotten to see Kenzie in so many different videos and stuff. She's so fantastic. But um, being a for many years, I kind of I started moving through life going, I just like impacting people's lives, and that started in sales, and then it went into the dog training industry. But then even in being in the dog training industry, I started learning more and more about how people learn because I always had to worry about the other end of the leash. And I finally had the opportunity to grow the business enough that I was able to work with just my staff, or I got to work with just the clients without their dogs. And I found that I had a passion for helping people actually chase their dreams. And and I realized a while back that one of the biggest struggles that I saw happening with adults and then as a father, I started noticing even in the youth was that people didn't realize what they were truly capable of. That they were able to chase after any dream or hobby or whatever it might be, and it was possible. They kept hitting these walls like the world says I can't do this, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have the right time, or I can't get into the right school. And there were so many walls and barriers in their lives that they didn't realize that there was a path for all of them, a path to the happiness, a path to feel that joy at the end of the day and feel accomplished. And again, that doesn't matter if it was a career or a hobby or whatnot. And I think Kinsey, I think that's why our passions align to create tailored trainers and to start something like this, because with our expertise from the youth to the adult side and the passion for both, with that united goal of being able to learn and think outside the box and become such a unique and confident individual that is going to change not only their the way their family acts and learns in their own personal life, but change the lives of others that they are impacted when they're given that opportunity to feel this way.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head so many times there, Chris. First of all, I feel like I just completely glazed over the fact that we started this company because of this united idea of ours. But yeah, you totally hit the nail on the head there. We have both seen in our unique experiences, you coming at it from more of a business standpoint and working with adults regularly, me coming into DOG and working with the kids, and the adults too, some of the time, but mainly focusing on the kids, my experience with teaching in a public school setting, all of those unique experiences, we have seen just this need for that spark again, that curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and that idea of how can I make this meaningful not only for myself but those around me? Um, and we've seen such success in them. We've been able to try so many different things in our own families, even in our
Yeah.
own classroom settings, our own families. And so I just think yeah, everything you said makes so much sense and really encompasses our goals here.
It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So, you know, as we're going to dive forward tonight, I remember like one of the big topics that was passionate to you was the power of wonder, and kind of how does that, like, how do we reignite that curiosity in our home, and so what does that mean to you? So I know you said that that was something that you really wanted to talk about. What is that power of wonder? What does that mean?
I think it means so many different things. If I had to sum it up as far as the power of wonder in my mind, and you'll notice a lot probably that I lean more toward the kids side of things because that's where a big part of my passion lies, and that's a lot of my experience. But the power of wonder within our homes, within our families, as it relates to our kids, um, is just finding a desire to learn again. And when I say desire to learn, I don't mean that, kids in general just have kind of shut out the idea of learning, right? They're constantly learning. They're constantly learning from us, good
Yeah.
or bad habits, right?
Yes.
Um, but they have so many answers at their fingertips. They can get on their phones and Google something. AI is incredible in so many ways, but it also kind of has a hindrance to just that sense of wonder about the world around them, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that in my classroom a lot. I would try and give these experiences to these kids that would kind of just entice them to ask questions. And when they asked those questions, I didn't give them answers because
Yeah.
I wanted them to wonder about it. I wanted them to explore it. And seeing that, like, there's that moment of like, wait, but you're my teacher. You're supposed to tell me the answer. Or you're my parent. You're supposed to tell me the answer.
Hmm.
Um, and then I don't. And then it's not just a go figure it out on your own. Like, I'm going to guide you. I'm going to facilitate. I'm going to help. But I want you to wonder. I want you to come up with
Yeah.
the big questions. And, there is a quote by one of my favorite science teachers. He's a science influencer. I was a science teacher, so of course I'm gonna pull this in. But he talks about how if we continue to give kids the answers to their questions, eventually they're going to stop asking the questions. They're just going to stop wondering because they know we're going to tell them everything.
Yep.
Um, and so that's what it means to me. It means getting kids excited about the world around them. And when they're excited about the world around them, they are more likely to make a change in the world around them. And I think that regardless of where we're at in our lives, we can
Hmm.
all agree that, change is good right now. We could use some change.
I think, as you were talking about that, it there was a couple of things that came to my mind, and one of those was it was running a couple of the youth camps that we did, and I remember when you made a strategic shift on where we were asking the students to actually a look at their own dog. Like they had to evaluate their own dog, and some of that was even trying to come up with, well, how is that dog feeling and why are they feeling that way? But you were utilizing those problem solving skills and the like their ability to just think outside of the box and wonder like what is going on here. And it was incredible to see how many of the kids at the start of the week compared to the end of the week, where we after we started kind of triggering that part of their brain,
Mhm.
how many of them were stuck. He was just like their brain would hit this wall of like, I'm not used to using that. I think the example, like you said, is that it's so easy to get the information at my fingertips that the wonder and the curiosity, it just stopped. It's like, well, I I have no desire. If I decide I want to look that up, I'll just look it up and get it and move on. And that was kind of the second part of that thought was that kind of made me sad actually when I was thinking about it, is that the greatest things in this world that are here now. I mean, even what we're doing on this screen and the lights in the background and the structures that we're living in. came from curiosity, came from wonder. How, like, can this happen? I want to learn more. Tell me more about, light and then gravity and the greatest things. But what happens when that starts to be diminished? How far do we move ahead? How much need how many things are out there waiting to be discovered still? Um, whereas whereas we need more people that not everybody. I think about Elon Musk. Not everybody's going to be like Elon Musk. He's a very unique individual. But talk about an individual who has been able to wonder and go and then go, well, I think I could do that.
Hmm.
And he's created lots of neat things. And it's not just him, it's putting other people, other wanderers at the fingertips. And that had to stem some point in their youth and become an important part of their youth so that it could develop into their years as an adult um, to help them confidently be able to discover the world around them. And they've got to be having a lot of fun doing it. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, any experience that I was able to give to my students or have been able to give to students, if they are doing the thing, like they're not just, okay, put 2 drops of this in and put 3 drops of this, following instructions on a worksheet,
Mm-hmm.
but instead I'm just saying, here's the stuff, you go do it.
Yeah.
They have so much more fun and they learn so much more because they're at the wheel, they're driving the learning.
Yeah.
I think something else really meaningful that you just said, and I noticed this myself as an adult. So we can make that shift into the conversation too, because we're not all about kids here, Taylor trainers, but it is my number one passion. But
Yeah.
you said something about just like real world learning and
Mm-hmm.
just this idea of things that actually happen in real life, learning about those things. It's not just, your standards for the state that you have to learn at the end of the
Yeah.
day because you have to take a test, right? That's not real world learning most of
Yep.
the time. If you can put experiences in front of kids and adults that they're interested in, I think that's in and of itself one of the most important things.
Agree.
Um, they're interested in, but it's hands on. They are the ones figuring it out. Because yeah, I can Google something. I can ask ChatGPT anything, anytime. But if I actually have to do the figuring out, it's gonna stick so much more.
Yeah.
Um, but B, I feel so much prouder of myself if I have figured that thing out, and not
Yep.
just relied on somebody to tell me the answer. So I like that you pulled in that real world learning component there, because it's what advances all of us. It advances us personally and our families, our society,
Yep.
all of it. So yeah, I love that.
So I guess thinking about that from a standpoint, you even mentioned that key word there, even in our families. I think about wonder in the families, and this is a honestly until this moment, I thought about, even with Taylor Trainers, thought about it as a full family approach because how important that is as a family unit, and because that's where change happens, because that's a safe place for most of us, to hopefully grow and be nurtured and find out who we really are. But I suddenly thought about my family, and Kinsey, that we recently just started homeschooling one of our children. We still have one in public school for a little bit longer as we were trying to figure out how to make this transition um, into our lives and make sure we did it right and successfully for our kids. But it's interesting is that we've always had to balance, like, our kids like video games. I like sitting down with my son and playing video games, but when we're campers, we love to go out and camp. And I remember when we first started camping, we were finding these fun campgrounds that just had already had pure entertainment at them. Some of them had water parks and things, and those were great, and they still are. We still love doing those. There's nothing wrong with those. But what we realized, and I didn't realize how big this was until now, is we love camping at state parks now. But what's happening is that our children are starting to enjoy the wonder of going out on the trails or going out and fishing and learning about those things that are around them. But their curiosity kicks in when we get on that trail, and they're kind of like, what's up around that bend? Well, look at that rock formation. How did it get like that? Can we go explore into the edge of it? Like, and then their minds come alive. And then it's interesting watching them create even their own games and stuff while they're out. And what's beautiful about that is that that's translated even back to home, is that some of the outdoor things that they enjoy and that they come up with. And and I can tell you too is that their mental health, when they're thinking outside of the box, and they're being able to get creative and explore these crazy tree formations. And I know it's not all about nature. This is my example, and the trails, and then they're trout fishing and they're watching the trout and how they're following and other trout around. And like, when they're tired at the end of the day, it's not this like cranky, like I'm going to throw a fit tired. It's just this very settled, just
It's not
and
this like I've been staring at a screen all day, tired.
yeah,
Like their brains have actually worked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings joy to us as the parents too. So, and that creates extra wonder, because when we're seeing that, we're naturally going, oh, I want to provide them more. And so what's happening in our brains? We're starting to do the exact same thing. We're starting to come alive, and it's feeding them, but they're feeding us. And we didn't even realize that they're feeding us with this desire to think outside of the box. And man, I guess that's the power of helping a family unit as a whole be able to stimulate that curiosity again,
Yeah.
to have wonder in their life.
That is so spot on. So you said something about um, you homeschooling your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really important comment for us to make here, too, is that any programming, any youth programming we've created so far or that we will create,
Yeah.
yes, it is great for homeschool kids to get
Mm-hmm.
that, get out of the house, get off the screen, that type of thing. But it's also so great for any kid who
Yeah.
just needs another exposure, needs another outlet, another thing um, to ignite that curiosity and that spark.
Yeah.
So I wanted to also make that distinction because I feel like a lot of times I get so excited about the idea that you're homeschooling your daughter, and I've got a baby on the way that I plan to homeschool. So,
Mm-hmm.
I get so excited about that I think it's important to make that distinction too, that it's for everybody. But then flipping
Yep.
ahead to what you were saying about families, I have seen that, you and I and your wife and my husband have been friends for years now.
Yep.
And I've seen that shift in you and your wife as far as like the excitement that it brings you to um, get your kiddos outside and get your kids learning about things that have nothing to do with a worksheet.
Yeah.
Um, or even, they kind of have designed a lot of your learning experiences, I feel like, just by asking questions. And it brings like you're not a
Yeah.
middle school teacher by trade. So you're not like creating all these elaborate, authentic lessons.
That's for you.
Um, yeah, that's my job. But you are creating really meaningful experiences for your daughter because
Mm-hmm.
she's asking the questions and it sparks that in you and your wife. And it's just become a whole family learning experience, even if you don't have experience as a teacher. So that's
Yeah.
been really, really cool to watch too.
And as you're saying that, it's neat. Like you said, well, one for any child, because and maybe this is just a shameful plug for us at Taylor Trainers here, even though we're here to provide you lots of other insightful things, and lift you up and know that you're not alone in all this and these feelings of what you want for your family. But is that the programs, whether it be child or adult, like they are, yeah, it's great for homeschool, but it's great for any, like you said, for anybody, because it's not another math class. Like you said, it's these simple ways to explore the world that include that talk about how they combine. Oh yeah, science is tied into dogs, and we've bicycles are tied into engineering, and photo, learning to do photos and take video, turn into your creative side of what with the world around you. And it's like just any number of things. But I think it's also, the neat part is that at times we as parents even sometimes feel overwhelmed, like when it's hard to get started. When I want to think about, I remember even just 6 months ago when I was first starting to think about even just homeschooling, I go, well, how am I going to fit anything else into my life? My wife and I both own a business, and trying to do all these things. But over time, it starts to become natural, especially when it's not something that is meant to be a, oh, you have to do this to graduate, or you have to do this to be successful in life. It turns into something that's fun, even to the point, like you said, Kenzie, is that it turned into, a lot of it became entertainment for me after a while, going,
Mhm.
oh, because it was so rewarding inside. If we want to get, if we, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I want to get all sciencey, we suddenly get, we're getting this feedback from our kids, and then we're having fun, and suddenly we're getting those little dopamine hits, and we're feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. Um, and then we're wanting to learn right along with them, which is a huge piece, because if we're if we're feeling good and we're having fun, and we are able to make it easy in our lives because it is that, our children are watching. Our children are going, oh, if they're doing, I'm going to follow that lead. Even our honorary teenagers like are watching and going, all right, I'm going to try and play it cool right now, but I could tell that looks awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, as you're learning more, as you're doing more things, our kids are watching. And so if you're learning, whether you're learning about things that they're interested or not, if it's just something personal to you, they
Mm-hmm.
see that curiosity in you, and you're suddenly setting an example for your kids of having that learning mindset and being a constant lifelong learner. And that inspires them to dig deeper too. So it's kind of like just a back and forth between
Yeah.
us and our kids, which I think is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
And fulfilling.
yeah, so fulfilling. And I think one thing that you were kind of touching on a bit in your shameless plug, so I'll give a little one too. Um, but as we've kind of developed this, and with teachers just being overwhelmed in whatever sense, whether it's homeschool, public school, private school, it doesn't matter. Teachers in general are overwhelmed with the number of options out there for how they teach their kids the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that they have to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's a really important comment to make, is that our goal is not necessarily the end all be all, like, you do this stuff, you are going to graduate with straight A's. Like, that's not our goal here. Our goal is to be that curiosity spark. And you touched a little bit on one of our programs, the youth dog training, and how it relates to science.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to dig in a little bit deeper to that, just as an example, because I feel like
Okay.
we know what we're
Yeah.
talking about, but everybody else might be like, what is happening right now? Um, so we both have a background in dog training. You've got several certifications, and we've worked
Mm-hmm.
together in the dog training space for a long time. Um, we created this program based on my expertise with kiddos and your expertise in the dog world,
Yep.
um, specifically for kids to get that hands-on experience of learning how to train a dog from scratch.
Yep.
Um, how in depth that goes, we've talked about extra programming for that, and we'll keep that a secret for now. But
It's
just
coming.
the it's,
Yeah.
just that idea of like, okay, here's the thing, that you have dogs at home, you have animals at home. This could be translated. I've got cats at home. I could translate it to my cats. You've got this animal at home, and here are some strategic steps that we follow as trainers
Mm-hmm.
to train our dogs. Now, that being said, you know your animal, you know your space, make these observations, do all of these things to direct your own learning. We've got facilitator guides for the parents, but the whole purpose is, okay, this is not you sitting in front of a computer and answering multiple choice questions and then taking a test at the end. Like, that's not it. That's not our style. Here's
Yep.
this animal that you have that A, loves you and wants to
Uh-huh.
be with you all the time. You love your animal. How can we incorporate that and teach a little bit of science along the way? So I think it's important to have just an example of how we're kind of going about this material, creating this learning material for
Yeah.
families. So just throwing that out there too.
I love it. I love it. You know, I've got to say, like, getting into this conversation about, um, creativity and just general wonder in the family. I, I didn't even getting it going into the conversation. I no real idea of where the conversation was actually going to lead, and uh, but even having this conversation as we are and as we talk about things, it makes it even more real to me, the value and the importance um, of that, and in the family unit. And I know that not everybody's family unit looks different, especially, especially right now in today's world. The family unit is different. And so when we think about that, though, we think about it from a standpoint of, I could even say a mentor, a leader, a grandparent, a parent, um, a an older sibling, like those people that you decide to surround yourselves with. And I think that's important, is that it's not, we like focusing on the family unit of how that family unit that you have, but it's also important, I think, that when you expand outside of that, whatever that looks like for you, is that you continue to surround yourself with people that start to feel that same way, who go, yeah, I want to wonder too. And it's not hard. Sometimes you just have to introduce it to people. I remember, it wasn't even a learning thing, but my kids the other day, they had some friends over and they took them out to the back of our property. We were out in the country, and we have a bunch of those big round hay bales waiting to feed the horses over the winter. And next thing you know, you've got some super creative and fun games as they're running across and using those as trails and jumping from one row to a next. And it was that wonder, that curiosity, that creativity that they were transitioning to other friends. That, and I think that's so important. And it's kind of funny. I heard this study a while back, and this was actually about performance at work. And it was I think it was like the 20% rule or something, or 20 foot rule. And if you wanted to drastically improve, simply put yourself within 20 foot of a high performer, in whatever setting it might. Is it sales? Is it just how you treat people? Like whatever that might be, you put yourself within 20 feet. And studies showed that that would increase your performance by almost 50%, and whatever it was, simply by making sure that you were near that person on a regular basis. You didn't have to do any extra studying. You didn't have to learn for them, just simply being actively in their presence. And I think about that. That's kind of that thought process behind the family unit of as a whole, is as we work, not just trying to teach our children, um, is that as parents, we are trying to teach our children, but we're also open to our children teaching us. But then we're thinking about that from our friends and our other family members, our cousins and aunts and uncles, all, like, that, because we have the ability as individuals to spread that growth, that confidence, that joy that comes from thinking outside of the box, to remember that we can push the AI away, and no matter how good these tools are, and remember that how much fun it is to, and important it is for us to be creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as you were talking about that 20-foot rule, it made me think of like some of the experiences I've been a part of, the teams I've been a part of, the just I don't know, life experiences. Being near those people, those high achievers, I can think of like five of them off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
And just wanting to emulate them. And
Yeah.
they weren't coaching me, they weren't teaching me anything outright. They weren't like, sitting me down and telling me something. But my performance steadily grew just by being around them.
Yeah.
I see that in, obviously I'm an adult now, but even my mom and I are very close,
Mm-hmm.
always have been. And some of the things that I've learned along the way, as her child, have kind of rubbed off on her, and the amount of success she's seen in her life because of just being around me. But I was
Yeah.
around these other people that were inspiring and making me better. So it is kind of just a chain that you don't ever know where it ends, because I'm
Yeah.
sure she's inspiring people every day. So it's just cool to hear you say that about seeing your kids do that. And I had this picture in my head of them jumping on the hay bales, and I didn't see a phone in sight as I was picturing that, which I think is, that's just such an important component of what we're trying to do here, is inspire that type of life, whether it's in a learning space or not. Like, just how can we reconnect with who we actually are without technology? Is technology important? Of course. Do we use it every day?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but just just giving those experiences for you to use your own brain and be curious, like you said, is so important.
Incredible. And and this is, I mean, I'm pushing getting off topic a little bit, but as you were even saying that between your mom and how many people she's impacting, when we were talking about very early on that impact that can change a family, can change generations of people, for the good. One, just a simple mindset, how much good you can do. And sometimes we forget, like, I don't know how to make people happy. I don't know what to do in this world. It's busy. There's a lot going on. But sometimes it's as simple as allowing your mind to wander, allowing yourself to be creative, and then inviting others into it. And that may mean that you just have to be brave enough to kind of say the things out loud that you don't know how people are going to take them, of let's go jump on hay bales. Like, what? Because you don't know what great things might come from it.
Yeah.
But what a great, way, I think the one thing that we can all agree on, regardless of where you stand in this world, is that there is room, there is room for more joy. Um,
Amen.
yeah. And what if one way you can do that is simply by letting your light shine and just starting to wonder and think outside the box and grow, and share that with your parents, and your parents share that with you, and then it's the friend, and it's like, holy smokes. And then it ties into, I'm doing dog training and science, and I'm editing videos and meteorology and all these fun cool things that aren't even work anymore. They're just stupid fun activities.
Right.
I
Look
mean,
at this cool
not
thing I'm
stupid, but
doing.
yeah, so, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think you made an important distinction there between, doing something as a job, right? Like I have to
Mhm.
do this thing. And I think
Yep.
a lot of times we, as humans in general, this is not to say kids or adults, it's both, it's all of us. We see the idea of learning something new as
Mm-hmm.
a chore. It's something that I have to do. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do
Yeah.
this. I'm set in my ways in whatever sense that is. Um, but then once you take that initiative and get excited about it and get
Mm-hmm.
almost like, I don't know, I get really nerdy about things. Like I just get so, I dive in and I'm like, my husband
Yep.
calls me a nerd all the time because of it. And I
Yeah.
love it. But when you get nerdy about things like that,
Mm-hmm.
you are inspiring other people to like, wait a minute, that's different. Like I'm not used to seeing that. And
Mm-hmm.
are you gonna have pushback on that? Absolutely. Like
Yep.
I will tell you when I get super excited about something that I'm learning, I will talk and I will talk and I will talk and I will talk. And like some people are like, okay, let's bring it back down to earth. Let's actually make this digestible conversation, right?
I'm pretty
Um,
sure you've done that to me a few times with
yeah, okay, that's fine, but you've done it to me too, so it's fine. But when you do that and you have that like idea of, oh my gosh, this is so cool, and I just have to
Mm-hmm.
share it, how often do you experience that in your day to day life? You don't really. So
Yeah.
when you run into somebody like that, it just makes you stop and think a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what are you doing that's different? I think they really
Yeah.
sense the authenticity in your curiosity and your wonder and your
Right.
spark. All these buzzwords that we've been throwing out here, like
Mm-hmm.
when it means something, when the learning experience means something to you, people sense your authenticity. And that's not
Yeah.
to say you're not going to have pushback, right? Like when I say, you know, standard based, getting things by the book every single time, multiple choice test, when I say that that's not my style, is there pushback on that? Of course there is. That's our
Yeah.
normal idea of learning. Um, but then when people have that authentic experience in the learning space with me, you start to see a different tune of like, wait a minute, it was actually fun and I learned a lot. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful thing to throw out there too.
Heck yeah. And that pushback, I think, is when is that next phase of us really growing, and whatever that is that we're talking about, right? Like to kind of today, or to the topic is you know is dreaming together, is having that more wonder in our life. But I think, that pushback is sometimes what actually helps us grow. Because I can't tell you how many times that, I mean, I am a dreamer, and for anybody ever watching, like, my dreaming overwhelms people at times. Like, she's nodding and smiling for a reason. My wife, I have to ask her in the morning, like, are you good for me to share ideas? Or are you still waking up? um, because that's what I am. But it's the pushback that actually helps continue our growth, right? I think that's kind of like the resistance when we are, if you're going to the gym and building a muscle, it's the resistance that actually allows it to get stronger, because you have to have that resistance, because at some point in life, you're going to get some resistance with something. And you get to learn that, do I just run and hide from that, or do I take it and go, no, I'm going to stick to my guns, or, oh, valid point, let me make some adjustments so I can keep dreaming and making this and chasing after this dream together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's such a valuable piece to the puzzle of dreaming together. And I think when we think about the family unit, like the family as a whole, or if it's a co-op doing this, or if it's a friends, I like whatever that looks like. I think it's important that whoever's leading that, right, in that household, or that co-op, or that teacher in the classroom, that they allow others to see the pushback that they get, and they talk about the pushback and how they're handling it too, because it's important that we are, especially in today's world, right? We look at social media and how many people go, well, look how perfect their life is. Or you look at somebody who's really successful, and you're like, well, they just got lucky. They must have won the lottery. In fact, most of the lottery winners have, a lot of them have spent all their stuff and it's gone because they didn't actually have the pushback. They didn't learn to earn it. So we need to share those things and go, that's normal and that's great. That's where the best things actually happen, is when you get that pushback.
Yeah. Yeah. And you find community because of that pushback, right? Like when I first decided to leave my traditional classroom space, um, it didn't feel good, right? Nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was also jumping ship, right? For the same reasons. Um, and I felt very isolated, and I felt very, wait a minute, but like, I just see this differently. I just see more possibility happening, or that could happen here. Um, and so finding that community of people who have either already experienced it or are experiencing it, pushback of any kind, whether it's, and I think it's important to make the distinction of that could be on a skill, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess for myself, the skill that I'm referencing is teaching style,
Yep.
or learning style for my learners. But it could also be just any sort of lifestyle thing that you get from that skill.
Right.
So if you have, I'm trying to think of a unique example, like welding, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has taken the time to dig in and perfect that real world skill, yes, that's a tangible skill. But what
Yep.
other things have they gotten from that? How has their character shifted because of it? How has their friend group shifted because of it? How has their fill in the blank here
Yep.
shifted as a result of them really diving in to do that meaningful learning experience for themselves? um, and they find community in that. And I think that it'd be kind of cool if we shared here that we have things coming down the line to build community for our learners, our adult division, our youth division, that's going to be kind of awesome for people
Yeah.
to build that community amongst like-minded people, in the sense of they want to discover and wonder and be curious. And um, yeah, I don't know if I was supposed to share that, but that's really exciting to me.
Might as well end it now. Here we go. No. Well, I think, um, I think we've hit a lot of good things on dreaming together. Um, and I guess my final thought, if you're all right with me sharing a final thought, would
Yeah.
be, and you can share whatever you've got, but I think my final like thought and kind of takeaway, even from the things that I learned from you and the things you were sharing today, was that kind of learning to dream together, or wonder and think outside of the box, is how important it is from a full family approach, or a full group approach, because of how we surround ourselves. but it's also in that it doesn't have to be this big project. It doesn't have to be this full system of going to school, but very quickly it can just become part of your lifestyle, uh, and it becomes natural. And when that happens, I feel from personal experience and even from the conversation that we've been having tonight about it, is that there is a lot of joy, excitement, laughter, and new adventures that start to open up in our lives as we start to do that together, not just as an individual, but as we start to do that together at our individual levels.
Yeah, because it's not a, like you were saying, it's not a complete lifestyle overhaul, right? Like you're not,
Yeah.
if you start an experience like this, you're not changing every single thing about yourself overnight. Like, have you ever gone on one of those crash diets where you're like, all right, starting Monday,
Yeah.
I am only eating vegetables and meat, and like that never works, right? Like
Nope.
I am gonna eat ice cream that night. I'm just going to.
Yep.
But in these small bite-sized pieces, you are gaining the tools to make small shifts, and those small shifts add up to really big, amazing things in your life, in your family's life over time, in your children's life. Like you're just gonna see such fruitful experiences because of those small changes. And I think that's, to sum it all up, I feel like that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to
Yeah.
make families feel that very easy progression toward something really amazing.
Yeah. I agree
So
100%. Well,
awesome.
well, fantastic. I think it was a great conversation. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, ditto.